about how do I double my business in 30 days. So for the next 30 business days, we are going to be going through this topic in some detail. Today's day 2. I kicked things off yesterday. We looked at this different, roadmap for scaling your business and identifying where you're at today. Today, we're going to talk a bit about marketing metrics. I think there's a lot of gatekeeping with information on the internet these days. And so I'm going to try to share what I've learned with you guys, and maybe we can learn in this process together. Who am I? I'm a media buyer turned CMO consultant. I've scaled several digital marketing teams and campaigns with some top brands here in the United States. Today, I'm based here in Rio de Janeiro, so if you are in the neighborhood, let me know. And if you want to get in contact with me, here is all my contact information. Today, we are going to talk about metrics and building your KPIs and building your benchmarks and what to do with those. Yesterday, we talked a little bit about building your KPI dashboard. This plays off of that, and this would be a little bit more specific about what I would be including in that KPI dashboard. Okay, so first, what's the point of all of this, right? One of the biggest mistakes that you can make is either taking a one-size-fits-all. Okay, Peter put these things on a slideshow. I'm going to go put these numbers on my dashboard. No, that's not the point of today. The point of today is to learn what metrics are there and then to cherry pick out the ones that are most important for your business. Not every metric on here is going to be important for everyone. You're looking for the ones that are most important for your business. When you build your dashboard, ignore all the vanity metrics. Ignore the stuff that doesn't matter. You're looking for levers for control. I change this, I get more of this. What are those levers that you can pull from? Incorporate your lead measures that we talked about yesterday. If you're not familiar with the concept, go back to the video from yesterday. And again, keep it super clean and simple. You want to come into this document and within a few seconds know, how did yesterday do? How am I doing overall? And what do I have to do today? Right? When you start your workday, we talked about needing traction. If you're trying to scale your business, especially at a lower level, if your business is smaller today, you need to be chasing traction. Where do you have traction? If you're not looking at your KPI sheet, you have no idea, or you're guessing. And then think of your funnel as a chain. I have used the word funnel quite a bit yesterday, but I didn't define it. If you work in an online business, you're probably more familiar with the idea of your business as a marketing funnel. If you are in some other industry, you're maybe less familiar with it. But for every business, what we're thinking about is this operations as a conveyor belt. Think of a factory, and each stage in that conveyor belt is a different station. And if you come into your KPI sheet and see station 1 has a problem, let's go explore different things we can do at station 1 and fix this, right? Let's get station 1 running more efficiently. But when you lay it out, you want to lay it out in that chain model. Think of it as like mission control for this conveyor belt. When we set this up, there's going to be a couple different stages. So at the beginning is going to be your traffic metrics with your click-through rate, your CPC, CPM. I have some example benchmarks on here, but you're going to set your own benchmarks for yourself, and I'll talk to you about how to do that. Then you'll go to the engagement metrics, which for a lot of businesses are the most important part. And then at the end, you'll have your conversion metrics, CVR, AOV, ROAS, ROI. And then at the front end, you'll have retention, which will be things like churn, refund rate, LTV. So on these traffic metrics, your click-through rate will show you your relative ad performance. It will also tell you at an aggregate how responsive the market is to your offer. A good offer will get a better click-through rate. A weak offer or a product that's not sellable is going to have a very low click-through rate. So you can evaluate individual ads, right? Okay, my ads are better or worse, or this batch of ads is better or worse. But you can also use it at a high level to tell yourself how well the market's accepting your offer, and changes in that number, which is really what we're looking for on the KPI sheet. My click-through rate has declined. That tells me I need new creative. I need to test new hooks here, or creative's getting scale. If you're a smaller team, it's good enough to say, oh, my click-through rate's dropping. I'm going to go write some new hooks. If you're a bigger team, you need to anticipate it. You need to know that creative does get scale, and you need to have a pipeline to get that new creative into the campaign before your CTR drops. And in a larger team, that CTR drop would be a sign of that process not working or needing some optimization to get that creative in there faster, right? Everyone wants consistency. It doesn't matter if you're a small team or a big team. Everyone wants some consistency. And so you have to anticipate that those are going to come, and you have to have that creative beforehand. And your drop in CTR will tell you you missed it. You missed the mark on it. Your CPC will show you the efficiency of that ad with that audience. A rising CPC, again, can be a sign of ad fatigue. One of the things you have to do once you pick out the metrics that you want to incorporate here, which is what we're kind of going through. We're showing all these numbers. You're writing down the most important ones for your business, and then you're going to build those out on your dashboard. But when you have that, you'll conceptualize, what are these numbers showing me today? If your click-through rate is down last week, then your CPC is up last week, okay, you can say, maybe I need some new creative here. The CPM is a variety of forces. The market competition, we're in Q4. There's going to be more advertisers, primarily on Meta, advertising in the months ahead. We'll have more competition. That CPM will come up as a result. It will also tell you how the algorithms are evaluating your content, which is huge. Meta and Google pick favorites, and so your CPM will tell you how that's doing. I have 2 clients recently who have very similar offers, fairly similar target demographics, although there's a little bit of important nuance on them. And very similar creative. And one of them has a CPM of $14 on Meta, and one of them has a CPM of $140 on Meta, with nearly identical creative, right? So that tells me there's something that's getting flagged. There's something Meta doesn't like on this landing page. There's something Meta doesn't like on this copy. And so in that scenario, we're testing different copy variations, different landing page variations to see if we can identify what's getting us flagged and to get around it. On the conversion metrics, you've got this add to cart rate. I tend to think that your add to cart rate is also influenced by a variety of factors. One of those factors, if you're an e-com, is navigation. If you have a e-com store with more than a handful of products, navigating to the right product is going to be one of the most important things for getting your conversion rate up, or your add to cart rate up, both of them. I had it when I worked in e-com. I was merchandising air conditioners. Turns out that most consumers buying an air conditioner on the internet have no idea the technical specs that they need. So adding the navigation to convert technical speak into layman's speak really improved the amount of people we were getting to the cart and then subsequently getting to checkout. Another idea off of that is something I've been a little annoyed because I take these volleyball lessons at the beach. I have to buy a jersey to play, right? You have to wear the jersey to go. I go to the website to buy a jersey. Every product SKU is listed out individually. Every size is a different SKU. Men and women's on the same page, every color. So if you want to buy men's large shorts, you have to scroll through 5 pages. There's no filtering or anything like that. They could improve their conversion rate by adding some filters. Men and women's size, color, and then you filter the type of the clothing. You put those 4 filters there, and then it takes a long time to find the right product to a couple seconds to find the right product. Your checkout initiation. Again, I told you these numbers you've got to conceptualize a little bit. So one of the benefits of having an add to cart ratio, an initiate checkout ratio, and a conversion rate is that you can see when these numbers break. If people are adding it to the cart but not initiating the checkout, what do they see in that cart that's losing you the sale? A shipping cost, something there, the layout of that page. If they are adding to their cart and they're not checking out, there's an issue with that cart page. If they are initiating the checkout rate, if they're initiating the checkout and you have a high checkout initiation rate, but they're not converting, what's wrong there? Maybe there's an issue with the payment method, something like that. There's an issue. If those numbers break, and this is true almost all over the place, when you see numbers that should correlate each other very closely and they stop correlating each other very closely, that's very interesting to me. I'm very interested in why that is, right? I had a client recently where our cost per call has come down, but then our revenue per lead on the other side of it has really struggled. And when you look at it, initially it seems like, okay, our show up rate is just fine. But then you dig into it a little bit more and you find some lack of reporting on these no-shows that drives it to, hey, we actually do have a pretty big show up rate problem and we need to address that to get the revenue coming out the back end. And then your attendance rate is going to show you how strong your funnels are, how strong your follow-up series. If it's a webinar or a call, it will also tell you how good your event on the calendar looks. That's another ad. It's a second ad. If you're driving people to something that requires a Google Calendar invite, that Google Calendar invite is an ad and it has to be reflective of that. It can't just say like Peter and Dan call whatever. It has to be an ad. You have to reinforce why should people show up in that ad again. Okay, your financial metrics. AOV is a key lever for scaling your spend. If you're an e-com, how can you bundle it? How can you upsell it? How can you have some to your pricing? It's pretty similar. If you're not an e-com, have an upsell on there. Have some lifetime pricing or 1-year pricing, something like that. Your cost per acquisition is, I use it on like entry products and I use it on advertising. So if we have a campaign running on Facebook to sell a specific product, what is the cost to sell that specific product? Your customer acquisition cost is very similar. And for other types of businesses, maybe you'll use customer acquisition cost. Or if you're looking at the high level, maybe you at customer acquisition cost. And this is going to be that cost to acquire one new customer. So a lot of times it might be very similar. Whereas in my first example, you have a Facebook campaign to drive a sale. Maybe that lead doesn't buy that product and then they buy something else. Your CAC will take that into account. But is that the effectiveness of this campaign we're running on Facebook? I would argue no. And so on the evaluation of that campaign, I would use the CPA. And then we have a couple similar metrics here. The marketing efficiency ratio and the return on ad spend. The marketing efficiency ratio I would use across all of your campaign sources. The ROAS I would use when I'm looking at specific channels. And again, I care a lot about the changes on it. Is my ROAS better or worse than it was last week? Is my ROAS better or worse than it was last month? That will tell me in part where I want to allocate advertising expense. Where's your marketing efficiency ratio? Again, the trend also is helpful. Is my marketing spend more efficient this month or less efficient this month? But use it at the high level there. And then your ROI is very similar, but it takes out your other costs involved with it. A lot of times when we have e-com clients, we're taking out the COGS, we are taking out the shipping cost, any operations costs, all of that stuff to see how good it's actually going. And then the retention metrics, lifetime values, how much is this customer spending with you in their lifetime? Your repurchase rate is what percentage of these folks are making another purchase within 30 days. Track it by cohort, so within 30 days, 60 days. And then your refund rate, almost everyone should care about. Almost every business should have their refund rate on there. And then if you have some subscriptions, look at, the churn rate. Okay. Once you picked out the numbers that are most predictive for your business, then you want to come and you want to start setting your benchmarks. So first thing I'd do is I would look back at the long term. If you're looking at these front end numbers, I would look at the weeks. If you are looking at the back end numbers, maybe look at the months. And then what you want to do is you want to identify the best performing timeframes. Base your benchmarks off of those best case scenarios. When performance was at your expectation, what was your CTR? What was your CPM? When performance fell, what were the CPMs there? Segment it by channel and product. This is when we might start talking about your individual team dashboards. Because if you're the business owner, you're going to have a dashboard that looks very different from the dashboard of someone who's maybe in a media buying team or an email marketing team or an operations team, right? Each one of these departments should have their own KPI sheet with their own predictive metrics that will show whether or not that team is being successful. If you are a smaller stage company, you're going to have insane volatility. That volatility goes down if your AOV goes down. So if you're spending $1,000 a month and your KPI is a $5 CPL, you can look at a little bit shorter of a time frame than if you're spending $1,000 a month and your AOV is $10,000, right? In that last scenario, I might look at not 6 months, but 60 days of data for sure, to have a good idea of how things are going, because there's going to be really good days and there's going to be a lot of 0 days in that type of scenario. If you're a little bit bigger than that, you're spending a little bit more than that, you'll still have really good days and you can have really bad days. And one individual day doesn't matter. It's the overall trend there. Use industry data as guardrails. Everyone, it's quite easy. Go to Google and say CPM benchmarks for personal injury lawyers, and it will show you. One of the things of your local business is that different markets can be wildly more expensive than other markets. So personal injury lawyer, it does not matter to you what the US average is. It matters if you're in Dallas, you only care about the CPMs in Dallas, and that's not going to be reflective. If you're advertising nationwide, you can use those as a little bit of guardrail, but don't like set your own benchmarks off of that. Like it says, your economics matter more than what you read on Google there for any of these benchmarks. And then reevaluate it at least quarterly. Sit down and say, is this benchmark still where it needs to be? There's a lot of different ways for your funnel math to work, right? And dynamics can change. Maybe you have, a good example of it is an e-com. I have these clients where Amazon stopped spending on product shopping, product listing ads, Google Shopping. So our biggest competitor dropped out of the market. We can get some lower CPMs out of that advertising source. Now we can pack some efficiency at this stage, which maybe gives us some wiggle room to chase some more volume and adjust some things at other places in that. Okay, your leading metrics, which if you're not familiar with, go back to yesterday's video. These are the early stages of funnel performance. These are what you're looking to for action. Your lagging metrics are only the outcomes. So your lead metrics, track these every single day and look at them every single day. When I come to work, I look at my dashboards and I say, how did yesterday do? And then I base my decision making for what I spend my time on today based off of what I see on these dashboards. So the example would be your click-through rate tanks. Fix it now. You have 3 days of your click-through rate declined. Fix it. Don't wait for the end of the month and say, oh, our click-through rate was down this month compared to last month. Then next month you put a change out. No, evaluate it today. Let's get some fixes going. What time frame should you look at? I mentioned this a little bit. Expand your window if your volume is low or your AOV is high. Understand that bad days will happen. Don't stress out over one bad day or one good day, and look for the longer term trends. A lot of times, if I have a smaller account, I have a rolling 7-day window. So I'm looking at, okay, is my 7-day average going up or coming down? Set color-coded tiers on your dashboard. I love Google Sheets, and so put some conditional formatting on there based off of your benchmarks. Color it green when it's good, you want to scale it, you want to push on it. Color it yellow where it needs some attention. It's not at target. There's some work to be done, but it's not so urgent. And then color it red when it's an immediate fix. The idea, if you're trying to scale to 9 figures, is to have pipelines to keep you out of the red. You're going to chase your tail forever. If you just come in, look at the sheet, this is red, let's go. The red should tell you when the process is not working. Click-through rate and a CPM. If you're a small brand, maybe you can get away with coming to the sheet, seeing I'm red, going right, so copy. If you're trying to scale to 9 figures, you got to have that pipeline to get that new creative into your new campaigns before you go into the red. And then the red symbolizes the process is not working. So if you're a smaller brand, look at the red and say, oh, my creative's not working, I'm going to fix the creative. If you're a larger brand, look at that red and say, my process of getting new creative into my ad account before I need it is not working. What do I need to change on that process? Also, if I was an individual contributor, if you are a brand manager, an e-com, or a media buyer, I would have that color-coded set up for the brands that I'm managing or the accounts that I'm managing to tell me where to go spend my time today, which we're getting into tying all of these metrics to some action. But when I worked as a brand manager, I had a sheet with all the 30 brands that I was managing. I would look at their revenue variance to goal, and then I would look at the biggest dollar misses on it. And I would spend my day working on my biggest misses to goal. Each day, my goal was to get the biggest revenue variances down, diminish my revenue variances on my lowest performing stuff, get everything up to their goal for the month. And so, yeah, at a high level, you're making these decisions. But if you're an individual contributor, or if you work in a department, set something up for yourself where you can see, okay, these are the places where I could spend my time today. This is how I'm going to prioritize my time. So connecting these to action, which is the whole point of all of this. Everything we're talking about today, you have reporting so that you can go pull levers and go pull the right lever. So the first step is assigning an owner. Every number on your KPI sheet needs to have a person who's responsible for it. So if you have an e-com store, your click-through rate, your CPC, your CPM, assign your media buyer. If you have a CRO manager, Your conversion rate, your AOV will be assigned to them. Your LTV, your repeat rate, maybe go to a retention manager or customer service manager and have those people speak to it. When you do your call each week or each morning, how did yesterday do? Your media buy can report on their numbers. Okay, it's down, we're doing this. That's how I would run that call too. As the founder, go through the sheet, each person talk about their section. This number went down, I'm doing this. This number went down, I'm doing this. Or if there's a lot of moving pieces, you as the leader of the organization can say, hey, metric owner 1, your number is down, what are you doing? Metric owner 2, your number is down, what are you doing? Set clear targets based off of it. I love color-coded conditional formatting in a Google Sheet. Look at the red ones. Talk about the red ones. Prioritize the red ones, right? Like, it should be no debate. This is red, that's what we're fixing. This, once you fixed all of the reds, go to the yellows. Once you fix all the yellows, look at the greens and maybe compound on some things that are working. Set some triggers, conditional statements. If this happens, I do this, right? It's going to be different for every business, but define when this happens, what am I going to do? My click-through rate fell for 3 days. I'm going to launch 3 new creatives, right? If this happens, then that for every single one of them. Visualize it as your pipeline. We talked about this already. Your whole organization is a conveyor belt, a factory line, moving prospects to a sale. This sheet is how you're going to evaluate which parts of this pipeline are working and which ones are not working. As a business owner, you can go in and diagnose with the respective teams, and each individual team is like their own section. They should have their own dashboard that they're using to determine how they're doing and what's predictive of their success, right? Because even like if I ran the media buying team, which I have done that in the past, that click-through rate is also an outcome. Like, to you as the business owner, your click-through rate is one of these leading metrics we're talking about. But if you're in the media buying department, that click-through rate is an outcome of things that they're doing and market factors and other factors, right? But it is an outcome of the stuff that they're doing and the strategies they're using to combat it, right? And so in the media buying team, that would be one of my lagging metrics, and I would be looking at other leading metrics on how can I control that number. That is all that I have for you guys today. I will be back here tomorrow going through another topic on this. Here are my resources that I pulled from today. And like always, I have my slide deck here linked wherever you're watching this video, so you can come back and revisit this. But let me know in the comments. Contact me with social media if you have any questions, and I'll see you guys tomorrow.